It's also that time, so we will get started. Welcome, everyone. As I was told by the chief, it's fall, so we will officially consider it to be the fall. Um, Start by acknowledging the meeting was properly noticed by the clerk's office. I am looking around and we have everyone in attendance, so thank you again for making it a priority in your calendars. We will start with a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next order of business is to review 3 sets of minutes. So in your packet, and hopefully you had a chance to click the link that was on the email, there was a last minute addition to the packet for the August 5th and August 27th minutes. If you did not receive all 3 sets of minutes, please let me know. But we have minutes for the July 8th, August 5th, and August 27th meetings, the latter being the subcommittee. So unless there are corrections to any of those minutes, they will stand as posted. So calling for any corrections. Hearing none, you said you moved for a second, so I wondered if you were adding something. Hearing none, then those minutes will stand as posted. Then we will turn to the substance of today's discussions. First item turns to our continued discussion of our CJCC priorities. Also in your packet, you would have received the summary report from JMI. That was the lengthier of the 3 documents you received. We also received a summary and recommendations 2-page documents, and then what I requested was this executive summary, sometimes referred to as a 1-pager, which further summarizes for us the recommendations from JMI and the potential next steps for us. So this is the product that JMI has returned to us as a result of our work related to the priority setting efforts that we have put in thus far. I have some ideas about potential discussions in terms of next steps and where the group could go. But before we talk about any motions or anyone interested in making motions, I wanted to open it up for discussion. Thoughts on what we received back from JMI, further discussions on the feedback and perspective of JMI?
Just thought it was a very thorough report. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much detail, quite honestly. I agree that it was thorough. There were a couple items that made me wonder if, and I'm not sure what our action is with regard to the report. If we accept the report, in some ways we are agreeing with everything in it. In other ways, if we just place it on file as a reference document, we aren't saying that necessarily we agree with everything in it and all the recommendations therein. So I think there's a distinction in my mind, at least, that we should make. There are a couple things that I noticed reading through it that I'm a little bit curious as to where they came from, and not certain that I can automatically agree with them. So on that note, unless anyone wants to add anything, I'll go first. On page 4 of the report, which is page 7 of the PDF. And I'm just looking for additional information to see where the information came from. Towards the bottom of the page, case congestion and consolidation. The court system is experiencing case congestion compounded by the lack of case consolidation, which leads to inefficiencies and increases the likelihood of failures to appear. Forgive my ignorance, but I'm not sure what lack of case consolidation is, if that's an indictment of what we're doing now, or if that's a common across the United States justice system, or what that is. If someone could help me understand that, I would certainly appreciate it.
I'll start and then I'll invite both Attorney Bratz and Attorney Parham to comment as well. Case congestion, I think, primarily comes in the category of criminal cases. The district attorney has been sharing with other stakeholders that their office has been working through what I think he's called a backlog of criminal cases through this calendar year, which has resulted in an increase. I think you've indicated about 25% in your filings throughout 2025. That has had a massive effect on the circuit courts by increasing case filings by that percentage. No one showed up with additional resources. And so we have seen a significant increase in case filings, which has caused congestion in the dockets. We have no additional court time allocated to hear these cases. There are no additional attorneys in any of these offices in order to hear those cases. That is the reference to case congestion. There are simply more cases and no more time or resources allocated for the increase in filings. Yep. That's case congestion. The case consolidation issue has to do with a system that has functioned for 15 years, where how cases, predominantly criminal cases were assigned to court officials in what is referred to as intake assignments. I don't want to spend a ton of time explaining it because we just changed it. Okay. Long story short, we being the judges ultimately, as of November 1st, made the decision to change that in an effort to address this issue related to inefficiencies and what we think might be contributing to failures to appear, but it had more to do with inefficiencies. So if you picked up a case in branch 1, then you picked up a case in branch 2, and you picked up a case in branch 3. Previously, it was assigned in a manner that was inefficient and ineffective. We've now implemented a change effective November 1st that will result in those cases all appearing in front of the same court official for one court appearance on your 3, 4, 5, 6 cases, resulting in attorneys, district attorney, and the defendant making one appearance in front of the same court official. That is the reference to consolidation.
So that's already been solved. Great.
We believe we have implemented a change that will solve it. I'd like to say it's solved, but we have to see how it plays out. I am anticipating it will solve it. We may need to make a few tweaks, but I think we have, I believe we have done what we expected to do. If it doesn't accomplish it, we will make an adjustment to get it done. Attorney Bratz?
No, that's all accurate. And, certainly beginning November 1, like Judge said, has it been solved? To be determined, I suppose. But I think it'll certainly help. Hopefully it helps with case congestion as well. Because like Judge says, we have an increase in case filings this year. And it creates a potential issue within the courts, because there's a significantly higher amount of cases that are going through. So hopefully case consolidation helps out somewhat with that as well. And hopefully by next year, things somewhat level out too. So Judge explained it very clearly. And hopefully this case consolidation that is being implemented will be very helpful.
Attorney Parham?
I would just add that the increase in the number of case filings has, the word I'm going to use, crippled my office. Does anybody know anyone who wants to be a public defender? And those who want to be public defenders are having a hard time staying in that position. So my office suffers from a lack of resources. We don't have enough bodies. We are outnumbered at one point 5 to 1 of the number of people who can do filings. I'm counting the county attorney's office as well as the district attorney's office. Compared to the number of people in my office, we were outnumbered 5 to 1, which is difficult to manage, difficult to stay on top of things. We now have overflow of cases where people are eligible for public defender representation, and we simply don't have the bodies to assign the cases to. So we're doing what we can. And this is not just at my level. This is at the highest levels across the state. Everyone's aware of it, and there are people above my pay grade who are working very diligently to try to solve it.
Got it. Thank you for that comment. There was a item on the next page that I was going to ask about, because the report mentioned that particularly in the public defender's office, there was a lack of resources. So thanks for enlightening me on that.
Well, I can piggyback off of that as well. I mean, within our office, like Judge said, we don't we didn't get an increase in prosecutors.
Right.
Right, so we're filing significantly more cases that the same amount of prosecutors are having to handle, so it's been difficult on our office as well, but I mean, that was something that certainly I wanted to address when I came into the office was eliminating the backlog of referrals that we had. So it's creating a stress on our office as well. I understand it's creating a stress elsewhere. But that was something that was important to me. And I mean, you know, most of the attorneys in the office, their caseloads have significantly increased as well. And so, but we're working diligently as well. We're going to try to do our best to alleviate case congestion. But yeah, it's kind of a tough time all around, it sounds like.
Thank you. I would not want to monopolize the situation. Or
No,
the-
I think these are just, I think these discussions are important. If there's areas that, if there's topics in the report that are not understood by all, we need to have a shared understanding of the content of the report. So I think it is valuable.
And if I could speak on the same page,
Yeah.
under, it's actually at end of page 3 into 4, it says some of the potential challenges. And one of the things was a discomfort with sharing data across agencies.
Mhm.
And I specifically remember talking a little bit about the sheriff's office and the data that we have. I just want to make sure everyone, I have no problem at all sharing any of the data that we have, but sometimes just a challenge of pulling it out to get the data that we want. But whatever data the sheriff's office has, I'm more than willing to provide to anyone.
I think that's I appreciate you raising the point, Sheriff, about sharing data and then what the data is used for, and then where the data goes. I think those are fair questions that can and likely should be asked as we put together a framework for data collection and data sharing. And what I mean by that is the report contemplates this idea of having, I believe it's referred to like a memo of understanding or a data sharing agreement, so that we all have the same understanding about what we do with the data we collect from each other and what the purpose of it is. And I think that's meant to specifically address what we're using the data for and make sure that everyone has a shared understanding of its purpose and its use. That's meant to build confidence amongst us. It's meant to build trust and make sure that we're all working in alignment, not only on that issue, but every other issue that we use the data for. Data tells us a lot of different things about our organizations and our agencies, but there are data points that I'm sure every agency has that would make us feel uncomfortable. There are data points that we run around with and we're very proud of. And acknowledging that publicly and doing it in a shared setting is part of what happens in a CJCC, a healthy CJCC. So that's, I think, an area that we have to build towards as a group. Appreciate you raising it, Sheriff. So we're in the area of pages 3 and 4. Anything else stand out to anyone in pages 3 and 4?
Piggybacking off of the sheriff's comments, at the bottom of page 1, and then in other places, on page 14, noted that the report identified it will be important to address any concerns about the alternative programs, including drug treatment, so the drug diversion program, OWI diversion program, and part of that being described on page 14, sharing program information, including outcomes and some of the process. So I'm more than happy to do that. The programs are more than happy to do that. And I look forward to hearing, I would love to hear more at whatever point it's appropriate from this council about what some of the concerns are and what we in the programs can do better in terms of informing everyone here as leaders in the community and other community stakeholders. So.
I think Supervisor Schwab has started a positive trend. Are there other areas in the reports that that people would appreciate more context to?
No, it's more context is what I'm looking for, but I was surprised that we didn't hold this number 1. I feel like in our conversation, we spent a lot of time talking about it. Obviously, we brought up some of the ongoing and age-old areas of pain that that the law enforcement have and the criminal justice system has, and certainly that we have. But I was just surprised by that, and so I mean, I'm just looking forward to. I'm glad that the strategic priority setting or strategic planning is sort of number one, because I think we need to delve in a little bit more on like what that means, or if it just means that most of the people who interact with the criminal justice system have some behavioral health need. But I was just really surprised by that.
Thank you. Additional areas of inquiry or further clarification, further context?
If we are progressing along and no one has anything before pages 13 and 14,
I will follow up on one thing Julie said. Are we certain, and I know you mentioned behavioral health was number one, but the farther I got into the document after we talked about that, I'm not entirely sure it's number one. It almost looks to me the way that they framed on pages 9, 10, and 11, the explanation of the different priority areas. They're in a different order. And it almost as if they're not really in any order at all. They're just co-equal priorities. So I'm not sure which, after our conversation, I'm not sure which is the truth.
I would share your assessment of it. And not to tip my hat too much, but I'm not sure we have to rank them. I do think we are encouraged to pick no more than 3, because most groups can't effectively tackle more than 3 in a time-bound goal setting format. But I don't know that we have to say this is our number 1 to the detriment of then picking a number 2 and picking a number 3, as though we are ranking them and giving them our priority and focus in that ranked order. So to your point, County Executive, I think selecting the number of them is the focus.
Right.
Or selecting any of them and picking our priorities is the exercise, not saying you're number 1 and you're number 0.
Right.
Or you're number 12, whatever.
Especially makes sense relative to page 7, where they really show the distribution, and it's really hard to tell if there is a 1, 2, or 3. They're pretty close. So thank you. I agree.
I think we'd gotten to pages 13, 14 is where you were taking it.
if no one has anything before that, the top page 14. The CJCC should also receive data on current program enrollment capacity and availability to assess whether these resources are being fully utilized. I think it's important that if we have a program in place, that it be used efficiently based on the resources, the short resources that everyone recognizes we have. By the same token, I don't think full program capacity is more important than public safety. And that's my only comment on that. So is it important that the resources are being used wisely? Absolutely. Should alternative programs trump other areas of concern? I don't know that that's true. So that was my only comment on that.
Outcomes, not outputs.
Yeah.
We're really good at output counting in government.
One thing I can add in terms of these programs that has been a product of largely Andy's involvement in a partnership with the Human Services Department is the data collection. So, and in conjunction with collecting data, looking at outcomes. So these programs specifically have been tracking data for years, and then have also then produced recidivism studies associated with 2 of the programs, but then have been tracking them throughout. So the ability to share all of that data with this group is available. And we just had a meeting yesterday. We share data quarterly. It's readily available, and it's historically available as well. So using that to have a discussion, to share better understanding, to drive discussions about sustainability of those programs, the data is there. So to the credit of those who have been involved for years, that has been a core of those programs. Any other comments, thoughts while we're in the vicinity of pages 13, 14 in this range, 15? So part of the role of the chair and the vice chair are to try to drive the discussion and drive the action of the group. I appreciated county executives' thoughts of selecting priorities, not necessarily ranking priorities, which is the exercise. I also thought Supervisor Schwab's comments about this report is informative. It provides us with feedback. Ultimately, our job here is the goal here, if we think back to our earlier meetings, the goal here was to set priorities, right? 2 meetings ago, maybe 3. The goal was to complete foundational training, ultimately engage in some level of strategic planning to set priorities for this group. So that's where we are today, is to try and select what our priorities are. We do not have to take any action that adopts this report or formalizes it in any way. It can be used as a tool to the extent we want it to be a tool. We can select our priorities. We can then select or identify next steps associated with those priorities. And some of those potential options, they call them recommendations, have been suggested by JMI both in the report as well as in the summary and the recommendations. That is how I would have framed it out. Or this is how I'm framing it out for you. I'm not the only, this is a group. So if someone sees it differently, please speak up. I think what we're working towards is a motion for priorities. Motion to select priorities for the group.
I would like to make a motion to select priorities for the group.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, could you be more specific about what the priorities are? So if you look at the bottom of, for example, the project summary and recommendations from JMI, they have suggested that we focus on 3 priority areas: strengthening the CJCC, behavioral health, and pretrial compliance. They are in an order, but I would not suggest that we embrace a ranking. I also, however, want to note that they also want us, and they recommend that we include data in all steps, and that we also have and go through a process to discuss our alternative programs.
Is page 23, appendix C, a potential framework for the motion?
Or I can.
I think that just summarized everything both of you said, if I'm not mistaken.
I would move that the CJCC adopt appendix C, page 23 as the CJCC's strategic priorities. Unless there's any objection.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Who was the second?
Dave?
Thank you. I'm not just raising my hand that we do at county board and community hearings. It's always a race. With regard to motion on the for discussion right now, I agree that the priorities are those 3 priorities, not necessarily being ranked, but I think those are the 3 priorities. I would not want to adopt necessarily the solutions proposed, because one of the solutions talks about a full director, full staff for the CJCC, which I can't commit to budgetarily at this point. So is it in principle? Absolutely. There's a lot of details that need to be worked out. I think those are the 3 priorities, so I would agree with it to that extent. But how we actually move forward, I think still needs to be up for discussion.
That would be my only concern, is that the actions identified in those categories, we may not have the ability to execute as written, or we may not all agree with as written, at least at this point. or we may need to further develop, and I think that's where really the meat of it comes to the committees for their work. So that's my only concern, but I think the framework of it makes perfect sense. So perhaps,
Ask a clarifying question. That's not to say that we shouldn't contemplate each action. It's simply to say we're not endorsing each action.
Exactly.
That I agree with.
Yep.
As I do think we need to wrestle with assessing the CJCC coordinator role and staffing.
Absolutely.
Not that we need to hire a full-time person, so to speak, but.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what we,
Oh,
just like the needs of, that we talked about a moment ago.
Yep.
And staffing elsewhere. Okay, I'm good with that. And we could even change the word actions if that's the rub, so to speak. It's really policy questions that we're trying to establish, not actions implies activity.
so how would we reword the motion to reference those bullet points as considerations, not adopting them? Because that's what I'm hearing as,
For considerations is better.
Okay.
That you use, I think.
In my mind, if we say simply that we recognize the priorities as expressed are valid for the committee to work on. I don't think that says more than we need to say.
so.
Friendly amendment?
So as amended then,
Yes.
accepting the priorities in Appendix C, strategic planning and governance, strengthening the CJCC, behavioral health, pretrial compliance, data integration, and alternative programs.
Second? No. That's to you. You made the motion.
You're good with that. then?
If you're good. with
As
that.
amended?
Yeah,
Do you-
as amended.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, second,
It doesn't have to be amended, though, it's just your
okay,
friendly.
friendly.
any further discussion then?
Robert.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, congratulations, you've all set priorities.
May I don't think this is amendment necessary, but rather than numbering them 1, 2, 3, is there another way we can highlight them? And I raised that because I think we should publicize this. I think they're really, really good. I think it sends a really positive message to the county board and to the public that we're serious about these things and we're working on them. And as long as we don't number them, it lends itself to, these are all priorities.
Just a point of clarification, when I said it this last time, I didn't rank them, did I?
No.
Okay, then I think we're okay. I think we are of a shared understanding that we are not interested in ranking them.
Mhm.
Are we comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So as part of that material, then we would just want to make sure that we avoid anything that gives a perception that we're putting them in any specific ranking order.
I would suggest, Mr. Vice Chairman, that this gets reported to Public Safety Committee at the next meeting. And we somehow find a way to get it into the public forum.
Yep.
Whether it's at that meeting or elsewhere. This stuff is really, really good.
It is. Yep. Thank you for that suggestion.
So you touched on a topic that I had failed to put on the agenda, but as I was reviewing the bylaws in preparation of the meeting, one thing that was added to the bylaws that I think at the time didn't necessarily seem like much, but now seems like much because we've been productive, is the requirement of the chair to update, I believe, on an annual basis. And I believe it references the county board as, oh, here it is, a report annually to the Public Safety Standing Committee. The report shall consist of a personal appearance by the chair or chair's designee, including a summary of the CJCC's activities and initiatives, and in addition to any other topic of interest. So to your point and your suggestion, how would the group care to handle it? It's written in the bylaws as an obligation of the chair. But my biggest concern is that it be taken care of and that we make sure we have I say we, I understand it's my obligation, but I want to make sure that it's taken care of so that both public safety, you're obviously aware of it, but that public safety and the board in general is aware of the work that's done. We occasionally ask them for money and support, so them being aware of what is occurring is helpful.
I'd be happy to do that, to make that report.
Anyone have any concerns about that? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have set priorities. Now let's talk about next steps about what we're going to do about those priorities and what we're going to do with them. So to that end, I became aware of an opportunity for what's referred to as technical assistance from JMI. This is not different or measurably different than what we experienced previously with JMI when we asked them for support to receive foundational training and also assist us with regards to setting priorities. The difference here is they announced a grant opportunity back in apparently in July. And I had an opportunity to consult with the vice chair, did not have an opportunity to consult with the group, but in consultation with Supervisor Schwab, there was an application for the technical assistance package, which had up to a $40,000 value of grant funding for technical assistance for your CJCC. There was a 50% match of your award that would need to be provided by your county. Ultimately, JMI came back late last week and agreed to award us up to a $10,000 grant with a $10,000 match to support us in our efforts at where we are currently at in terms of our formation. They wanted to know what would we use them for. I have an idea in that regard, but the opportunity then would be to continue to engage JMI for technical assistance, potentially with the priorities that we have just set. Funding would come from either the county board or potentially by authorization of the county executive. I have, it's my understanding you were made aware of this opportunity. If you'd like to weigh in on it.
Yeah, I think when this report goes to public safety, we have them bless strategic priority dollars. Which is technically I can authorize, but we always like the committee to bless it.
Would you be in support of it?
Yes.
Okay. So the structure would look like a $20,000 value, $10,000 of which is grant funded through JMI, $10,000 of which comes through the strategic priority funding, hopefully with the approval of public safety, and the county executive has indicated his support. That then would look like ongoing technical assistance from JMI in an area of our choosing. I came prepared with an idea, but this is a group, so ultimately we can decide how to use it. It would make the most sense to use it towards our priorities, of which we have just selected. In speaking with Brad and I took a call with Amy yesterday to frame this out a bit. They are able to and are experienced in assisting with strategic planning. So this funding available, the $20,000 would be a fit for JMI to assist us in crafting a strategic plan that aligns with the priorities that we have just passed. That strategic plan would ultimately, if that's how we would choose to utilize the grant funding, would allow JMI then to provide the support and expertise to this group. Obviously assist Brad in his role as coordinator in facilitating the creation of that strategic plan, utilizing the priorities that we have created. Additionally, help with formation of subcommittees and all of the foundation and structure that comes with that. We could use it for something else as well.
Motion.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we abide by the chair's recommendation to use that strategic priority funding to support that JMI recommendation to build out our strategic planning.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a clarifying question, is it like sort of, we get so many hours of support from them, and do you know what that is, or is that to be determined based on what we present to them?
Excellent question. I don't have the specific hours or the specific scope. So in discussing it with Amy and Brad yesterday, here's what that would look like. If this is the decision from the group, And then assuming the funding proposal as is contemplated here pans out the way we're expecting it. Brad would then engage JMI, identify the scope of the service, focusing on the strategic plan, confirm the hours, the number of visits, et cetera, and then essentially work on the details of the contract to engage them for that. When I spoke to Amy about it and said, what if the group decides strategic planning, we want start to finish, right? We want a completed plan. And her response was, typically strategic planning can be more expensive than this. We just finished your foundational training. We just finished setting your priorities. I've done quite a bit of the legwork already. This should be adequate funding to accomplish your strategic plan from where you're currently at. Fair summary, Brad?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
There's one other point, if I may.
Yes, please.
As when I did speak with Amy yesterday, I asked her if there was a time frame by which we had to accept the grant.
Oh.
And she did say they could hold it probably for a couple of weeks at the longest, which I think the Public Safety Committee meets beyond that deadline, quite frankly. So we probably need to lock in that approval for.
Brad, could we ask the vice chair to call a special meeting in public safety before the county board?
That's what I was going with that, yeah. Because I want to make sure we don't lose the opportunity.
Yep. We can do that.
I can let Amy know that. I can call her, let her know where things stand. I'll let her know that. But yeah, that conversation occurred yesterday, and I look at it about at least a year's worth of.
That is the same process that happened when we engaged them the first time for purposes of foundational training and the priority setting exercise. So ultimately, they were identified. Waukesha had used them. So I reached out to Waukesha wanting to know who they had utilized for their CJCC services. And that's how we identified JMI. But then ultimately Brad, in his role as the coordinator, identified the scope of the service, worked on the funding back aspect of it, et cetera. So that framework would continue going forward. Great questions.
Could you be so kind, you or County Attorney Stern, forward me the information on that grant so I can put a committee report together for the public safety to consider?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Yes. So on the floor, we have a motion from Mr. Seeger, second from Andy Freeman. Any further discussion about what would be the motion to accept the grant funding from JMI with a 50% match for purposes of engaging JMI for strategic planning with the priorities we just set? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Fantastic. Before we address item 3C on the agenda, I wanted to talk about the additional priorities that we've identified, which is integrating data and addressing concerns about alternative programs. Because we just discussed that JMI would be assisting us with strategic planning. Wanted to talk about integrating data and how we would go about that. So generally speaking, I'm under the assumption that all of our agencies collect data currently and house it in your varying forms. Wondering if anyone had thoughts about whether there are existing resources in the county or otherwise that could assist us in assimilating that data and providing it to the council for our use. So the theory would be utilizing the data you currently collect in your current forms. So not changing how you collect it, but simply you reporting it out to this entity and then this other entity assembling it so it can be reported to the CJCC, and we can start this process of sharing data and understanding what the data looks like across our different sectors.
Which entity in county government currently excels at that the most?
IT, Whopper, his shop, SharePoint.
None of that lands with me. I'm not
Right,
sure who that is or what that is.
That's what I mean. We're all public safety oriented, health service, human services and everything. I would lean into Dr. Whopper and his shop with
Okay.
IT
Okay,
and how we manufacture that. He might be someone that we touch base with and trying to coalesce all that information into one clearinghouse.
Okay, and that's ultimately what I'm looking for, is
Right.
whether there's something that already exists that we can utilize and ask to.
But are you talking about just a place where we put it all? Or
No.
somebody who takes it and puts it into a digestible format?
Yes, correct. Puts it into a digestible format and then it's reported out to us for purposes of our meetings.
Then for that purpose, I would suggest consulting with JMI. CJCC is well established. Many of them have dashboards with KPIs across the criminal justice system that would serve as a model, and JMI would be able to inform us about the most efficient ways to work toward developing that, and some of the most recognized or efficient places to start in terms of what data we have available and how to get from the data we have to where we'd like to be, rather than.
Yes, and JMI can do that. But what they can't tell me is where in the county or who in the county currently can provide that process of assimilating the data and putting it in a digestible format for the CJCC.
There's 3 sources. Dr. Wappert in the IT department is one. Aaron Dahl in the budget policy and analytics department is another. And the third is Eric Damcott in the GIS department. GIS has probably the best dashboard portals. If you go to our budget policy and analytics department's website, you can see budget oriented data reporting. If you go to our community development department, you can see next generation housing data reporting, just as models in different areas. Both are integrated through all 3 of those entities. So I would suggest those 3 people be brought into a room and help them understand the data sources, and then they can help translate how do we actually report it. Is it an internal SharePoint type of a circumstance, or is it external, or maybe there's components of each? But those 3 departments will be able to give you the answer.
Follow-up question then, do they handle all of their data sharing internally themselves? So these dashboards, do they manage their dashboards themselves?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
so they all have some degree of expertise and knowledge themselves as to their own data, mining their data, ultimately then putting it in the dashboards and publishing their dashboards.
yes.
Okay,
All of that, yes.
okay,
And they all operate in different mediums. In other words, GIS is mapping, so there may be things that we choose we want to map. Budget policy and analytics is almost exclusively databases and Excel spreadsheets, and IT is almost exclusively databases that are different altogether. So I think between the 3, we're probably going to be able to get some clear answers relatively quickly. One meeting with those 3, and I think you'll probably have, maybe you'll have more questions than answers.
okay.
Ooh, sure. Well, I would let Aaron make that decision.
Oh, I
I
see.
probably will be on the show, but Aaron's gonna know better than I do.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for, is who may be resources in our existing structures or existing agencies that would have this skill set, have this knowledge, maybe in other domains, which is perfectly fine. But what I'm anticipating is each agency having their own data that they ultimately turn in, so to speak, and that needs to be analyzed and then, to Julie's point, put in a digestible format.
I can pass this around just as one example of the type of data that those 2 of those 3 departments actually create monthly. This is for our next generation housing dashboard, and it gets updated every single month, and I get a physical copy, but it's also online, so you can see it. Maybe it sparks some thoughts for data that you're thinking about.
Ultimately, we'll need to find a home for who is going to hold our data and who is going to be responsible for digesting it and putting it in a format for us that we utilize on a regular basis. That's the point that I'm driving here, is where is that going to be? So while these are starting points for those conversations and identifying that, that is a decision point that will need to be made when we circle back to strengthening the CJCC and that priority. That is one of those priorities, the staffing, the structure for the CJCC, that's one of those needs. Additional comments, ideas?
I'm glad you brought that up. Do you have capacity to meet with those three parties, or did you have any other ideas as far as who might meet with Dr. Woppert, Aaron, and Eric?
I certainly can. If there's someone else who has capacity or particular knowledge or interest, I would certainly be willing and welcoming of that. Mr. Sager, I'm wondering if this might be something that you have the capacity for.
I can work towards
And
that.
if you could facilitate that, it would be very much
I can
appreciated.
facilitate and attend it. If you're unable to do so, we can pull it all together. If you have the time, Vice Chair, we can all sit down and it'll be probably 15 minutes and ask them what we need, and they'll be able to answer our questions immediately.
Okay,
I'd be willing to sit in on that. Okay.
that would be great. So if you would loop us in and let us know what
Yeah.
you're able to find out, I would very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Judge, I got a question.
Yes.
And it may just be for my department, but I think you mentioned earlier an MOU. I'm not sure if my department will require that an MOU takes place before data sharing can take place. Well, I'll preference that data is widely available to the public. I just think for the more in-depth dive of the data, and maybe certain requests may require an MOU for this committee. And that often takes more than a couple blanks.
I've been through that before with Department of Corrections. I'm expecting JMI to assist us with that MOU and provide us with guidance. I'm also expecting them, to Andy's point, to talk to us about those key performance indicators. So what data is valuable from each of our agencies, not that we're just asking for everything under the sun, but what is really going to help this group. So there's two conversations we're having here, right? I just need to be able to tell JMI, here's where the data goes, and here's who's going to ultimately provide us with the final product of this data, which is what Dave is going to help facilitate. But yes, memo of understanding or data sharing agreement of some sort, we will get to that. And hopefully you can facilitate with your superiors at the Department of Corrections in that regard as well.
Confident in that.
Yes, I'm confident in your ability to do that as well. Yes.
I'd have to dovetail along with that. There would possibly be some confidentiality concerns that my agency would have. But since we're not the only CJCC in the state, there must be something already out there that I just need to be made aware of.
Right. And figuring out what others have used and was previously approved is always a great place to start. Those are my comments on data. Any other thoughts or ideas on the issue of data and sharing data? Okay, did not want to overlook our other priority as well about alternative programs and having those conversations about historical context as well as eligibility criteria, outcomes, sharing data, things of the like. So a couple of options in terms of where we can go with this. I've mentioned the fact that those programs currently have what's referred to as an oversight committee. The name of it is the Drug Treatment Court Coordinating Council or Coordinating Committee, often referred to as the DTCCC, which is a mouthful. I inherited that name. I can't take credit for it. But that group meets quarterly to discuss status of the programs, reviews census data regarding the programs, discusses higher level concerns and issues, at times discusses resource needs for the programs, at times discusses policy issues for those programs. That group has been meeting since 2020 and in a different iteration had been meeting prior to 2020. So data is available, can be shared with this group, and there is a wealth of material that can be that can be made available. It's all publicly available, but can be brought to the group here as well. I'm looking for some guidance as to where you'd like to start.
Can we just break it down? Like, is everyone familiar what these programs even are and what the purpose of these programs consist of? Before we indulge in the data part of it?
I'm not sure, and maybe that's a better question. Would a a 101 discussion be of value to start off with? Which is, let's talk through the 3 programs, what they are, what they do, what population they target, how they work, how they integrate into the court system.
I don't think it would hurt.
Okay. So we'll start there with a foundational understanding of the programs. And then we'll see what questions we have after that.
Are there any other, the report mentioned several times, concerns about the programs? It was a comment somewhere in the report that sometimes those concerns may not be known by the people operating the programs, which would be me. And that's very true. I'm not aware, I haven't heard directly what those concerns are. So if the council has concerns, I certainly want to make sure that there's an opportunity and a forum to hear those concerns. If there are specific concerns before, I mean, I certainly want to provide education on the programs to everyone so that we're all on the same page, have the foundation. But I certainly want to hear what the concerns are so that we can address them if they're specific.
Madam Chair, point of order. These are very important things, both the data aggregation and the alternative programs. They are important enough, I think, to have their own agenda item at some point, since we are a public meeting, and maybe it might make sense to add these items as an agenda item at a future meeting, so that they get proper coverage rather than covering kind of at an ad hoc basis at this moment.
I appreciate that. I think that's where we are headed, which is some degree of foundational discussion or foundational sharing of foundational information as an agenda item in the future for a future CJCC meeting.
Yep.
Now that is at least where the group wants to start with regards to that priority. I'm trying to figure out where you want to start on that priority. Is that a shared understanding as to where you want to start for that priority? Is that where we want to start? Are we comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it'd be easier to answer your question in that context.
Right.
As well.
Okay. So we will start there and have that as an agenda item, whether it be at the next or the meeting after that, depends on what we hear back from JMI. Okay. That's what I have in terms of addressing the priorities and how we have now decided to use the technical assistance program grant that we have from JMI. Anything else on that before we move to 3C? This is a discussion point. A sequential intercept model was referenced by JMI in the report as a potential strategy to use. My understanding of it was in the context of a work group or a subcommittee in the priority of behavioral health. And I wanted to share with the group that the Wisconsin Department of Justice offers sequential intercept model trainings. My understanding is at no cost to CJCCs. Heather Kierzak at the state is coordinating those trainings. And so I wanted to share it as a potential resource that may be available to the group in the future. No decision is necessary or action is necessary, but perhaps some of you are aware of it or aware of that model generally, but that may be a resource that the group could choose to engage in the future, perhaps at that subcommittee level. Any other comments or questions?
I think it is something worth exploring at a future meeting. At a recent Wisconsin Counties Association conference, there was a presentation on this and how other states are using a model similar to this to de-escalate law enforcement involvement. Obviously, it's provided as needed, but it's interesting concepts. There's some interesting work going on in that area that I think we should consider for the future.
Again, a decision to be made in the future when it comes time to talk about what strategies to use by that work group or subcommittee. Thank you. And then we had an agenda item added at the request of a member. So Andy had made a request, actually forwarded a request for information, which is for our CJCC to be included in the statewide local map link, local program map link. Andy, if you'd like to speak to that.
Yes, thank you. For the Wisconsin Department of Justice, and the state CJCC have a state program map where they list alternative to incarceration programs, treatment courts, and CJCCs in every county in Wisconsin. Washington County currently has our diversion and treatment court programs listed. DOJ staff that had requested that we also share our CJCC information. It's relatively minimal contact information, phone, email, address, minimal sharing in terms of what information they're asking for. So I want to make the team aware, and then I suppose I'd be making a motion or requesting that the council approve that our CJCC make information available to the state so that it can be listed on the state CJCC website per their request.
The Andy's made a motion. Any second?
Second.
Any further discussion? I can add that in looking at the email, the information from the Department of Justice would be the start date, the contact person, which I would propose be Attorney Stern as coordinator. His email, his phone number, an address, which I assume would be his address, and a CJCC website, which we don't yet have. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I will have Attorney Stern then provide that response to the state as requested, and we will be recognized on their program map as an existing CJCC. Then the last item on the agenda is to discuss next meeting dates. One of the recommendations from JMI was to consider meeting more frequently in order to advance our objectives. The agenda references 2027 meeting dates. That implies that we're not meeting again in 2026, which was an oversight on my part. That was not meant to foreclose the concept of a 2026 meeting. I'll leave it at that. I don't have any other explanation for why I didn't include 2026 on that agenda item. But we need to decide how frequently we are comfortable meeting. You saw the recommendation in the report. You are all very busy people, personally and professionally, no doubt. We need to decide when we want to meet, how frequently, and set regular meetings as the recommendation, or come up with a different plan. Thoughts? Or a motion?
But do most committees meet other or statewide? Is it more often than what we do you think?
Yes, that is clearly what happens with other CJCCs. Yes.
And in the beginning, is it is it more frequent when they first start, and then, or is it just more frequent period?
I think they have standing meetings that become the regular occurring meetings as the business of the CJCC. And it's unclear to me whether there's a difference between at the inception and later on. I just haven't found a ton of CJCCs that are starting. We seem to be in the unique position of starting up. Everyone else that I've spoken to has been in existence for some time.
I would move as an initial step that the CJCC commit to meeting bi-monthly.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
What would be the times? Are we looking at this being?
Right now, it's
7:30?
just, the times and dates are yet to be determined. Right now, it's just, are we gonna meet every other month?
I could just make a suggestion that we try to get them on the calendar as soon as possible so that we're all
Yep.
good planning ahead of us.
Any further discussion on the proposal for bi-monthly? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, that motion passes. So we are at bi-monthly. The discussion or suggestion has been to be further more specific as to date and time and have them on the calendar. Do we have a motion in that regard?
I'm just gonna throw out second Tuesday of the month. Second Tuesday of the even numbered months. And 7:30 AM works for me. I'm not sure how well it works for everybody else, but I'll throw that out as a discussion point.
I'll second that motion.
So on the floor, second Tuesday of the even numbered months, 7:30 AM. Do you have a proposed start? No, I'm sorry, what month? So would you start this in 2026?
I guess there's no reason not to start in December
That's what that is
of
even,
2025.
so starting in December 25. Any further discussion? Starting December 2025, second Tuesday of the even numbered month, 7:30 AM. I would also indicate that we would provide a list of those dates so that we have specific dates for everyone to add to your calendars. For those who may be calendar challenged, I would put myself in that category. With no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, thank you for your commitment in that regard. I do think that will help drive the workload that we have ahead of us. I think it'll also help with the efficiency of time needing, the urgency of time that's needed for the work of JMI as well, which will make that grant productive and valuable not only to this group, but also then to the county as well. So thank you for that. That would be the sum of the business on the agenda. We would then move to adjourn. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate your time this morning. Dave, I do have this hard copy. You can have.
Thank you for that.